So now I'd like to introduce Lisa Opoku, our guest speaker for the evening, Global Chief Operating Officer for the Engineering Organization of Goldman Sachs, where she has been since 2004 and was named partner in 2012, and currently oversees the technology management and finance functions of roughly 9,000 engineers at Goldman Sachs. Being a first-generation Ghanaian American, she is a champion for diversity and sponsors the firm-wide Black network at Goldman Sachs. She earned recognition from Forbes as one of the 20 youngest power women in Africa, from Working Mother as 2017 Mother of the Year, and from Black Enterprise as one of the 50 most powerful women in corporate America. Please join me in welcoming tonight's guest speaker, Lisa Opoku, to our stage.
Thank you so much, Beth. Thank you, everyone, for having me here. When you get up here, it feels like the Javits Center already. Well, congratulations to LEDA on 15 years. I'm actually celebrating my own 15-year anniversary at Goldman Sachs at the same time. And eternally grateful to Jide Zeitling, who was one of the first Black partners at Goldman Sachs, and my colleague Roy Joseph and I are privileged to follow in his footsteps. So everyone creating a wonderful legacy, and so proud to be associated with LEDA. When I read the stories of the scholars who benefited from LEDA's program, a consistent theme stands out. So LEDA is their college counselor, it's their standardized test prep, it helps them with writing, it's their cheerleader, and it's free. None of these things existed for me. As Beth mentioned, my parents are from Ghana, West Africa. I was born in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Don't ask me why my dad chose Minnesota. He shouldn't move from the equator to Minnesota, but he did. And I remember distinctly being in the 7th grade. My parents always made it clear that you had to do well in school, but I remember getting 8 A's and an A- and coming home, feeling proud. And my dad looked me straight in the eye and said, if you could get 8 A's, you should get 9 A's. And I was like, Dad, but the A- was in gym. And he's like, well, that's the easiest class of all. So I knew from then what their expectations were, and regardless of whether or not I agreed with them, I just started trying to meet them. When I got to high school and was trying to make my college decisions, I see now at Goldman Sachs all these parents taking their kids around the country on these tours, visiting schools. And my parents were immigrants, they just really had no idea. My dad went to University of Minnesota, so his idea was, you should go to University of Minnesota. And I really wanted to go to Georgetown, now mainly because I thought Alonzo Mourning and the Hoyas were really cute, but that was it. So I applied to those 2 schools. And my dad said, Georgetown is $18,000 a year, and the University of Minnesota is $4,000, so you'll go to the University of Minnesota. And that was the decision. And 4 years later, when I was making my law school decisions, I had no LEDA, I had no North Star, and so I bought U.S. News and World Report, and it mentioned something in there about taking the Princeton Review. So I looked it up, and it cost even in those days, $1,500. And so I asked my dad for the money, and then I took U.S. News and World Report, and I applied to the top 25 schools, every single one. And I asked my dad for the money for that as well. Luckily, the guy was demanding, but he was generous. He gave me the money for all of this. I spent about $5,000 applying to these schools and taking the Princeton Review. And then 2 weeks after my applications were in, I went to see the guidance counselor at University of Minnesota. Of course, again, the wrong order. But it was lucky for me that it happened in that order. When I went to see her, she said, I'm really sorry you did this. You wasted your dad's money. You will never get into those kinds of schools. They don't take people from Minnesota. So I cried. I felt so bad. I'd wasted all my dad's money. And I went home feeling bad. And 3 days later, never forget, I had 5 roommates, and the way you know whether you get in is you get the big envelope. So one of my roommates said, you got a big envelope from Stanford. I was like, are you sure it's a big envelope? It's a big! And so I opened it, and I was so happy I'd gotten into Stanford, and 3 days later I had gotten into Harvard. And if I had listened to that woman, that counselor, if I had seen her before, I would have rejected myself. I would have gone to U.S. News and World Report, and I would have applied to 10 through 25. just blindly, again, not knowing what I was capable of, rejecting myself. So my message for all of you LEDA scholars is, know who you are, know what you're capable of, and apply at the top of the list. And forget 20 to 25. I've had a wonderful career at Goldman Sachs, and I will tell you that being part of a community is the key to that success. I have a community here with me tonight, and they're with me every day in the office, and people like Jide have left a legacy for us there, and so I encourage you to keep this network and this community. And to all of you LEDA scholars, every single one of us who's here tonight is part of your network. Call us, talk to us. You know, relationships go cold quickly. Just keep emailing, keep talking to us, and we will all be here for you. And I want to say to everyone who's here tonight, thank you so much for your contributions to LEDA. Thank you for your sponsorship. Every nonprofit like this needs money, so I'm not afraid to ask, so I'm asking on Beth's behalf and everyone else. And I want to thank you on behalf of Goldman Sachs. We're proud to be associated with LEDA, and we're proud of the relationship we have with LEDA. Thank you.